What is going on, Orange Buds fans? The main man, Onward Richardson, standing out here in front of a familiar sight. That's right, stadium is in the background. I'm kind of in the midst of construction right now. I'm standing in a safe place. Probably shouldn't be standing here for too long. I'm out here in the street. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Hey, one of the reasons that I'm out here back on campus is because Steve Sarkisian had a press conference today. It was a press conference to kick off training camp, which begins on Friday of this week. Now, there's a couple of key points I want to talk about that Sarkisian kind of talked about today. I want to make sure we kind of get into it right now. Again, as buses just whiz past me, this is going to be an action live scene. They always put the brothers in the worst situations, right? Just joking. Anyway, one of the things that he was asked about was Bijan Robinson, right? And the question was, hey, how many touches, Sarkisian, do you think a guy like Bijan should get? And he gave the answer that I think all Texas fans are going to be happy with, right? He said, hey, I would love to idealistically have the guy get about 20 touches a game, but there might be times when he gets 30 touches a game. And it kind of coincides with what we have been thinking and believing for a long time, which is that as they head into this season, that Bijan Robinson is going to be a guy that receives the heavy workload. One of the things I've written about a lot this offseason, if you aren't a member of Orange Bloods, check it now because there's a lot of great things to subscribe to. But one of the things that I'm written about is if you look at Steve Sarkisian's history. His history says he uses a workhorse. His history always suggests that he uses a bell cow. It seems to be that, once again, he's going to be using a bell cow. Bijan Robinson is plans to be that bell cow. If you just look through his history, whether it's last year at Alabama, going back to Sankey at Washington, all the stops in between, he always uses a running back that has a heavy workload. And so now it's going to be interesting to see what happens when a guy like Bijan all of a sudden is going from getting maybe 8 touches in a game, 9 touches in a game, to 20 or more touches in a game. When you talk about difference makers and what that can look like, it's clear that Steve Sarkisian has identified Bijan as one of those guys. I mean, we kind of got that indication, though, once he decided to invite Bijan to Big 12 Media Days. When you invite a guy like that as a sophomore, you think he's going to be special, right? I mean, when you think about Oklahoma didn't even have Spencer Rattler come. And they did that whole, well, you know, he's an underclassman thing, so on and so forth. Come on, stop it. Spencer Rattler's that dude. And so we know that Bijan Robinson is going to get heavy touches. And so that was really interesting. I thought one of the first things I thought was interesting. Clearly, we also got into the quarterback conversation, and that was something that was discussed. And what he basically said as relates to Casey Thompson and Hudson, I mean, he basically describes it as a tie. He basically described it as, hey, he's got to figure out which guy to go to eventually. But he kind of says it's all things are kind of equal. And he said at some point, he's just going to have to trust his gut. That's what's just going to have to be the determining factor. And that's going to be very, very interesting because, hey, he is a former quarterback, right? This is the thing that he does, and he is the quarterback whisperer. And right now he said, look, he doesn't expect anybody to relinquish the job. That's not what he's expecting at all. So at some point, he's just got to go with what he knows, go with what he believes, goes with what his gut is going to be. I tell you what, if you're Hudson Card, you really want to hear that because you're not hearing, hey, he's going to go with the veteran. You're not hearing like, hey, I'm scared of what the young guy is going to do. What you're hearing is, hey, you got a shot. What you're hearing is, hey, man, there's a chance. And so there's going to be about 2 weeks because one of the things he talked about was like they're going to have 2 practices. That's 2 scrimmages, rather. They have 3, but the third scrimmage is kind of more of like a game prep type of thing, kind of like, you know, using it as like a preseason prep, and that's just going to be going through the entire routine of getting ready for a game. So realistically, these guys have essentially 2 scrimmages to distinguish themselves, and essentially there's only 2 more weeks before we have a really good idea who's going to be the starting quarterback. So it's going to be interesting when it's said and done how Sarkisian goes with his gut. The one thing we do know is he's not going to go 2 quarterbacks, right? Long as his gut's not saying that, and we don't have to endure that misery, because God help us all if that's what the final product is going to be. He also talked a little bit about the COVID protocols and what that's going to look like. They're going to be, they said 90% of the guys are tested and have been rather vaccinated, and he's hoping for 100%. But the other people who aren't, they will continue to get vaccinated. And then really the last thing I want to say that I thought was really interesting is that he talked about, someone asked him like, hey, do you have a championship team? And he says, I think the talent is there. I think you have championship talent. It's just his job to recognize it. And clearly it's their job to cultivate it and make it into it. But the good thing about it is like he's not shying away from it. Like that's the one thing you notice about Steve Sarkisian. He doesn't shy away from the championship expectations. He's not shying away from saying that word championship. And he didn't shy away by saying, hey, look, I know you guys are talking about the SEC, but there's still some unfinished business here in the Big 12, things that they feel like they still need to get knocked out. So the fact that he's not shying away from the championship expectations, he feels good about the defense. There's going to be a lot more to talk about. I thought the Bijan Robinson thing was probably the biggest and most significant thing for us to talk about today. I will be out live on scene, probably not trying to get shots for you so you guys can see the construction. I won't be doing that much more. I'll probably try to save my life next time, but we'll be able to talk again. Talk to you guys soon. See ya.